As a species, we all like stories. We're captivated by personal narratives. We enjoy hearing an individual's adventures, challenges, and achievements. I'm sure you've been in a class when students try to get the teacher to veer off the lesson and tell a story about his or her own life. That's the thinking behind the college admissions essay. It's a departure from much of the typical writing tasks you encounter in high school. The effective college admissions paper doesn't follow the formal structure of a literature essay you might have written in the past few years. Maybe you once wrote about Ethan Frome or Macbeth or the Pearl with a thesis statement, 2 or 3 examples, and a conclusion. It's a typical format, but it doesn't reveal who you are as an individual. The college admissions prompts are all designed to get a glimpse of you as a person and a writer. It's a personal essay. The word essay is related to the French word essayer, which can be understood to mean to attempt. Just as you attempt to prove or support a position or thesis in a literature essay, in the college admissions essay, you are attempting to illustrate an important event in your life or develop for the reader a greater understanding of what you value and who you are as a person. If you can convey who you are as a person in a well-crafted response, then you will crush the college essay. Unlike the third-person voice in a literary analysis, college admissions prompts skew heavily toward a first-person response. At the many college fairs I attended with my children, I frequently asked admissions representatives what they want to see in the admissions essay. They all responded in a similar way. They want to see the student in the paper. So here's the first question you must ask yourself. Does your essay provide a glimpse of you as an individual? Here's the second question. Does your essay reveal who you are as a writer? Many students feel as if their lives are not particularly adventurous or notable, as if they don't have something important to say. Much of our lives may be routine. Unlike popular fiction, we try to steer away from conflict and sometimes relish the mediocrity. And it's true that aspects of your life may pale in comparison to the homeless young man who rode the subway for hours as he did his homework and still achieved a perfect SAT score. And few of us have lives that emulate the young woman who overcame the physical challenges of a devastating illness and excelled on our high school's varsity basketball team. Although each one of us is a unique individual, the lives of high school students are remarkably similar in many ways. One admissions representative jokingly said, "Everybody scored the winning goal, everybody caught the biggest fish, everybody took a special trip, and everybody loves his grandfather." While that statement seemed a little sarcastic, it points to the fact that high school students may have had many of the same general experiences. It's inevitable. But what we take from the circumstance is more important than the event itself. Consider the dividend of the experience, and then think of the angle from which you present it. Your perspective, your discrete point of view, your creativity are what make the response unique and personal. Focus on the knowledge you gained, the intellectual or emotional growth you experienced. You have a voice that is singular and valid. Although the aim of this training is to examine the common application essay prompts, realize that many of the supplementary tasks for specific colleges accommodate similar prompts and require similar responses. They're all designed to learn who you are as a person, what you value, your aspirations, your convictions, and they want to learn about you as a writer, your facility with the language, your turn of phrase, your originality. The personal essay is a powerful way to get a glimpse of who the student is. It puts flesh on the skeletal transcript. It enhances the identity of the persona constructed in the letters of recommendation. Like an interview, the personal essay is your opportunity to reveal yourself. But unlike the interview, you have time to ponder, reflect, compose, and craft your response. The personal essay is your chance to display the novelty of you. Let's take a look at the Common App prompts. Here's the first one. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. This prompt allows you to provide a richer view of who you are by considering those factors and qualities which don't appear on other documents. The college application itself focuses on you as a student, an athlete, or a member of an extracurricular club. It requires you to include your transcript, a compilation of all those numbers which create a composite view of your academic performance. SATs, ACTs, APs, course grades, GPA, class rank, state exam results, percentiles. The application asks you to enumerate the organizations, teams, and clubs to which you belong, and hopefully the leadership positions you held. But all that information is typically raw data with little chance of narrative expansion. This writing prompt invites you to fill in some of the blanks along the journey that got you to senior year in high school. It enables you to elaborate, to tell the story behind the numbers. Here are some possible approaches to this prompt. Perhaps you have a less conventional family structure or dynamic. Perhaps you did not take the typical path to or through high school. Perhaps you made a profound discovery about your identity. Perhaps you developed a particular skill or discovered a unique talent. Perhaps you overcame a significant physical, emotional, or societal challenge. Perhaps you had an experience that caused you to view the world differently. Perhaps you have a hobby or passion which you relentlessly pursue. The range of possible responses to this prompt is exceedingly broad. Your job is to narrow your view of the topic and develop it with relevant detail. I find that the second prompt can be a little unnerving for students. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? Most of your efforts to this point have been geared toward promoting yourself. You've been emphasizing your accomplishments, touting your achievements, presenting the best view of you. You are like the kid waiting on the sideline, hoping to be picked for the game. You would rather circumvent any discussion of shortcomings or failures. But we're all human. We have made mistakes, and we will continue to make mistakes. That's a given. Sometimes we encounter roadblocks or detours in our lives. There's something very powerful about acknowledging a setback or failure. How you handled that situation, how you learned from it, and worked to prevent its repetition speak to your character. That is definitely a quality which probably won't appear on the transcript. Your reflection upon this time is an opportunity for growth. The second prompt is less about failure and more about success. The challenge or obstacle you mention is merely the springboard, the genesis from which you can reveal your personal development, your evolving maturity. High school provides you with an opportunity to grow intellectually, emotionally, and societally up to age 17 or 18. College continues that task and helps you grow toward adulthood. Learning from mistakes and obviating the repetition of those difficulties is a real sign of maturity. Make sure that the obstacle you identify has significance to your life. It should illustrate your mature approach to rectifying the situation or resolving the issue. Here are some possible approaches to this prompt. Perhaps you were not picked for a sports team or school play. Perhaps you experienced a drastic change in family dynamics. Perhaps you had to move to another school district. Perhaps you had to overcome an illness or injury. Perhaps you procrastinated and missed a critical deadline. The incident or time when you experienced the obstacle, setback, or failure should not commandeer the paper. Use it as a point of commencement for your discussion. Don't worry about narrating every particular element. Establish the circumstance with adequate detail and then concentrate on the aftermath, your personal struggle, your reflection, your growth. Talk about the adjustments you made in your life since the event. The third prompt has its individual challenges. Reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? High school students, burgeoning adults, are confronted with values and beliefs from their families, local communities, religious institutions, cultural or ethnic groups, media, and society at large. Adolescence, as you know, is a time of questioning, a time when you are solidifying those tenets which will guide you as an adult. As you become a more critical thinker in school, you may find yourself questioning doctrine and canons in other aspects of your life. The pitfall of this task is the tendency to proselytize or evangelize. The prompt is not asking you to write a persuasive essay on a particular issue, nor is it asking you to compose a research paper on a local, national, or global topic. Again, the focus is personal. Here are some possible approaches to this prompt. Perhaps you questioned a religious practice or ritual. Perhaps you spoke out about a community tradition. Perhaps you contradicted a popular urban myth. Perhaps you protested recent legislation. Perhaps you wrote a forceful letter to the editor. Perhaps you challenged a teacher's political views. Perhaps you objected to a school mandate. Regardless of the event, don't let your explanation of the belief or idea usurp the rest of the paper. The two questions within the prompt are the crucial elements of the task. The first question forces you to consider the motivating forces that compelled your thinking. The answer to this question reflects your ideals, those factors that define you as an individual. If you had no clear galvanizing reason and merely acted irrationally or echoed others' positions, you may want to avoid this prompt. Your response to the first question should explore the values that motivated you. The second question, very much like the previous prompt, entails reflection. As a critical thinker, you have the chance to apply logic and reason to what was likely an emotional issue. Prompt number 4 addresses a student's creative problem-solving skills. Describe a problem you've solved or a problem you'd like to solve. It can be an intellectual challenge, a research query, an ethical dilemma, anything that is of personal importance, no matter the scale. Explain its significance to you and what steps you took or could be taken to identify a solution. This prompt shares some features with prompts 2 and 3 in that it asks you to address some quandary that you've encountered or pondered. The purpose of this prompt is not merely to see your reaction to a challenge or conundrum, but to get a look at your problem-solving abilities. Regardless of what you decide to use as the focus of your paper, take a logical but imaginative approach to a solution. Be rational, yet creative. The possibilities for this task are broad, allowing you to draw from a formal investigation you may have conducted in class for a research project all the way to some personal perplexity. Again, don't let your explanation of the topic overwhelm your response. Focus more on the latter two aspects of the prompt, its significance to you and the steps toward a solution. The key to structuring an essay like this one is creativity. Try to avoid a design that falls into the usual format of introduction, body, conclusion. Consider how you can incorporate narrative elements to convey your story in regard to the problem, query, or dilemma. Here are some possible approaches to this prompt. Perhaps you studied the issue of dwindling natural resources. Perhaps you followed the debate about hydrofracking or global warming. Perhaps you investigated controversial medical breakthroughs. Perhaps you enrolled in a class for which you were not recommended. Perhaps you found yourself caught between two battling friends. Perhaps you encountered the dilemma of law versus loyalty. Whatever you decide to address, be sure that your personality and your process of problem solving is clearly revealed. The reader needs to know why the topic is important to you. Prompt number 5 is perfectly suited for high school students. Discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself and others. High school is undoubtedly a time of transition. In grade 9, you entered as a young teen, 13 or 14 years old. In the previous year, you were at the top of the food chain in middle school. Suddenly, you found yourself on the bottom rung, looking up at 4 more years and then graduation. Throughout the years of high school, you grew physically, emotionally, intellectually, and socially, not just in school, but within your family, your community, your religion, your culture. You probably studied rite of passage in literature over the years. It's easy to see how a character moves from nonage toward maturity. Each year in high school is a demarcation of your chronological advancement, providing you with greater opportunity for exploration and personal growth. You may have had an epiphany, a sudden realization, like the proverbial light bulb that switches on. This prompt asks you to examine a seminal moment in your life, one which heralded a time when you gained a new awareness of yourself and others. Like the fledgling seeking to spread its wings and fly for the first time, you may have experienced some trepidation. In the same way, that step toward adulthood prepares you to leave the nest as well. You begin to see greater possibilities in the world around you. You become more urbane, less callow. You tend to consider more deeply the consequences of your actions, tend to be more considerate of others' feelings, more calculated and deliberate. It is assumed that you are a different person from that freshman from a few years earlier. And this prompt encourages you to reveal your development as it was incited by a personal triumph, an incident, or sudden insight. Most importantly, reveal what you learned about yourself and/or others. Here are some possible approaches to this prompt. Perhaps you escaped a nearly tragic accident. Perhaps you prepared for and achieved a stage in your religious training. Perhaps you received your first paycheck and paid taxes for the first time. Perhaps you witnessed the hardship of others. Perhaps you suffered more serious consequences for your actions. Perhaps you participated in a political rally or town hall meeting. Perhaps you had the opportunity to travel independently. Again, consider employing a narrative approach that engages the reader and allows him or her to get a real sense of your growth. Prompt number 6 really gives students an opportunity to write about their passions. Describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging that it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or whom do you turn to when you want to learn more? Many of our interests lie beyond the high school classroom, although sometimes they are addressed in extracurricular clubs and events. Consequently, you rarely have the chance to expound upon your hobby or interest in a writing task. This prompt wants to know what really excites you, what drives your personal edification, what pushes you toward deeper knowledge. Ironically, many of your interests might actually be those activities that prevent you from finishing your homework or completing your household chores. We can find many examples of individuals whose avocation became a vocation. Ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius once said, "Choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life." This prompt wants to know what starts the fire in you and how you endeavor to fuel that flame. Here are some possible approaches to the prompt. Perhaps you attended a summer program that crystallized your plan for a college major. Perhaps you participated in cosplay or other role-playing activities. Perhaps you play a particular sport year-round. Perhaps you enjoy video games and seek to build your own. Perhaps you have adopted a particular cause and work tirelessly for it. Perhaps you are a voracious reader, consuming any book that comes your way. Perhaps you are driven by theater and all sorts of performance. Perhaps you love making music. This prompt is an excellent way to show a side of you that is not revealed in your transcript or letters of recommendation. Prompt number 7 may make the application process easier for you. Share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one of your own design. This prompt provides an incredible amount of latitude. It really emphasizes the ultimate goal of these tasks, to elicit good writing from the applicants. While this prompt will provoke a wide variety of responses, not every piece of writing would be appropriate. The key word in this task is essay, so there must be some discernible point to your submission, some idea you are attempting to convey. In other words, your response should not be a collection of poetry or a character study or a piece of fiction. Consider all the required college application writing tasks that you may have in addition to the Common Application. If you are applying to a college that utilizes the Common App and also has supplementary tasks, don't use a response for a supplementary task for the Common Application. However, if the college does not subscribe to the Common App, then you may use a piece for both. The advantage of this piece is that you may have already received your teacher's comments and a grade on the work you choose to submit. That provides excellent feedback from which you can revise your submission. Yet the piece should be relatively current, one that reflects your present maturity as a writer. Here are some possible approaches to this prompt. Perhaps you have a research essay on a topic from one of your classes. Perhaps you wrote a persuasive piece suggesting a new club for your school. Perhaps you composed a letter to the editor concerning an important issue. Perhaps you wrote an essay in response to a sample AP assignment. Perhaps you have an essay which you had previously submitted for a scholarship. Regardless of the piece you choose to submit, take time to review it carefully and revise as necessary. The Common Application essay prompts, as I said earlier, can be very similar to supplementary writing tasks for specific colleges. Before you dive into one response, review all the writing tasks among the different colleges to which you will apply. If you are applying to a college that does not participate in the Common App, you may find that your Common App essay response can, with a little tweaking, apply to that school's writing task. Or you may find that at least some key phrases and ideas can be molded into other tasks. consider the pliability of your writing. However, if you write a response about programs or the philosophy of a particular college or university, realize the limitations of that paper. I once heard of a student who wrote a piece praising the course of study at a particular college and sent the essay to a different school. I have one word for that: proofread.